Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy PaddaKillz here. I am back with a brand new video. So EA just dropped a NHL 20 trailer. This is the franchise mode trailers. We're gonna be breaking it down. They also posted this article, so we're gonna be breaking it down from the article. So they actually introduced coaches this season, which like previous years we didn't have coaching. This year they've introduced it. So like any feature we develop, we want to add as much depth as possible. We think we did this with the implementation of coaches. So as for ratings, coaches are going to be broken down by 6 ratings. Those 6 ratings are going to be offense, defense, power play, penalty kill, teaching, and influence. So basically, offense is obviously like how good your team's offense is going to be, how good your team's defense is going to be, and obviously, you know the rest: power play, penalty kill. Now, teaching is basically going to be where if your coach has a good teaching rating, if he has like a B or A, your young players are going to grow quicker and more efficiently. Basically, your forwards, your defenders, your goalies are going to grow more efficiently if you have a good teaching rating. And obviously the coach influence is basically it helps the other coaches around the team grow as well. So each of these has a distinct impact to the team. The offense, the defense, power play, and penalty kill attributes have a direct impact to the gameplay and game simulations. Teaching can grow or stunt a player development on a team via player potential. Each coach also has a teaching speciality. These simply let the user know what type of player the coach likes to teach. Influence ties into growth of coaches. Having a head coach with a high influence will help grow the coaching staff faster. Coaching will also accumulate stats and can be awarded the Jack Adams Trophy during the end of the season awards. So we didn't have that before. We never had the Coach of the Year awards, and I'm excited that we're finally gonna have that, which is definitely cool. Obviously, coaches in NHL 20 have morales, just like players by adding a coach allowed us to revamp the player morale by adding 4 different morale meters. Basically, the coach morale is team performance, management, coaching staff, and player relationships. So basically, they also added interviews, which I'm very, very excited about. It's not like those cutscenes, but it's basically just like, in addition to standard conversation, we'll also have interviews. You can interview a coach prior to offering them a contract to get extra details. Basically, you can interview different coaches for your team to see what their ratings are, what kind of system they like to run for your team, and if they fit your current team. So obviously, it's a screenshot about the guys. This guy's name is Simon Andy Marciso, and obviously he wants 3 years, and you guys can see all that stuff right there in the picture. One thing to know is the other teams will hire and fire coaches throughout the year as well. So basically, what they're saying is around the league, teams are going to be firing coaches and hiring them. So obviously AI will put coaches on the hot seat during the year if they go on a long losing streak, miss the playoffs, or simply don't meet team expectations. So basically, when you're playing franchise mode, the AI will fire coaches based on if they're on a very long losing streak, or if they miss the playoffs, or if they just don't meet the team's expectations. Those expectations could be winning a Stanley Cup, making it to the 3rd round, etc. So that's how the AIs are going to be able to fire coaches. Obviously, the other new system is going to be the scheme fit and line chemistry system. The scheme fit summarizes basically how players fit on their current lines, and this is based on the strategy the coach has set for their lineup. So basically, the coach of your team sets up a system that your team likes to run, and this is going to affect the player fits on each line, the chemistry. So obviously, we have Bo Horvat here. You can see that the team looks pretty damn good. You guys also see a sneak peek of their overall, so you guys can see Patterson's in 87, Besser's in 85. Don't know if Besser should be in 85. I think Besser should be in 86, but we're here reviewing this. Obviously, you guys can see line chemistry. You guys can see which lines have good chemistry. You guys can see which the line chemistry impact and all that fun stuff. So you'll notice in the edit line screen, there's a lot more information available to the user. You can now juggle lines to get the best line chemistry possible. Chemistry ranges from -5 to +5, and these ratings have an effect in both gameplay and during simulations. Coaches now have the ability to deploy lines and construct lines in different ways. Some coaches will want to balance attack, while others will want to play the top tier players as much as possible. So obviously, you can mess around with this. I kind of like this now. Basically, what simulation is just gonna, like, when you're playing a rebuild or a franchise mode, previous years you want to have the best overall players on your team. Now you kind of don't. You want to kind of have players that fit your system, and honestly, this makes it really realistic if you think about it, because in the NHL, you want to have a team that fits the coach's system because you just don't want to put players that don't fit the coach's system. You saw this many years. Like I don't like obviously I don't know if you guys watch the NBA, but in the NBA it's literally the exact same thing. So obviously I'm very excited they added this new mode. It's gonna affect simulation. So now like you're gonna actually have to build your team smart. You just don't want the best players. You want the team. You want players that are gonna make that are gonna fit your system, which I definitely like. Scouting reports, basically the same thing as last year. They said that they're gonna have two new amateur scouting reports and two new pro scouts, and this is important to determine if a player. So basically, when you're drafting somebody, you can honestly scout them to see if they fit your team and if they fit your coach's scheme and where they fit in the lineup. So obviously. Um, this is a pretty good. So when you're drafting a player, you can see if they fit it. You guys can see when you see you can see at the bottom it says scheme fit. And you guys can see it says good. So obviously that's pretty cool to have as well. They've also added Nhl Eta and scheme fit. The Nhl Eta gives the user a better idea when a player may be ready to compete in the NHL. So this is really cool. So when you have rookies on your team that are playing in the AHL, or when you have you drafted somebody young who's still in the junior, it will actually give you a ETA and it'll tell you when it is a better idea for the player to come up to compete in the NHL. So that's definitely a cool thing that they added. And lastly, they added Trade Finder. This is probably the best thing they've added here. Easily is a Trade Finder. It basically, they introduced Trade Finder, which means you can get faster trades without going back to back forth with trade proposals for different teams. You can also pick players from other teams to discover their asking prices. So obviously here we have a Trade Finder. We got Louis Eriksson and a first round pick going over to Ottawa for a third round pick and Tyler Ennis. So this is definitely trades found one on one. If you guys, again, NBA 2K, they have this exact same thing in their franchise mode, or they call it My League. They have this exact same thing. So I'm super excited that we NHL has finally added this. Definitely cool. Other changes, they actually trade value mod. This gives player trade value boosts or penalties based on how they're performing during the year. This is definitely cool. So basically, like if your player is doing really good during the season, his trade value will be boosted. I don't know, like in previous years, but it just felt like when your player had a really good season, his trade value never got boosted. So I'm definitely excited for that. They've also the performance based on salaries. Players who do exceptionally well will ask for a lot more money. In Sims, players reaching 100 points will ask for $10 million. And now the Sims players will ask for around $8 million. Again, this makes it realistic. I know I like this. I don't know if you guys like this, but this is going to make it realistic. If your player scores 100 points in a season, he's going to ask for $10 million. That's going to make this the simulation realistic, because obviously you see all these contracts in real life. You guys can see all these contracts in real life, how these players are getting paid. So this definitely makes this realistic. Teams will not put bad contracts on the trade block to free up cap space if an RFA player wants a contract extension. Goalies are now worth less than skaters in regards to trade value, and we've improved goalie signing and trade logic in free agency. Players with 1 year left on their deals will have less value as the season goes on. So at the deadline, players with one value will be worth less than a full value at the NHL draft. These players will be worth significantly less. Again, that makes sense. That's realistic. 1 year rentals always should be worth less as the season goes on. So that's definitely a cool thing they added. Players with bad value can be traded with an addition of sweeteners to a trade. Increase bad contract amounts, so players with bad contracts require a lot to be added so a team will accept the trade. So that's basically we can finally trade bad contracts. I'm happy because usually in NHL 19 when you're playing, you try to trade a bad contract, you can never do it. So obviously I'm happy you can finally kind of do it by adding a sweetener. They've added contract exceptions, so players in the WJL, WHL, OHL don't count towards the 50-man contract limit. They added a trade alert pop-up that stops us if someone in the league makes a big trade. Thank you, EA. This is finally cool where they made a pop-up. I always like, when you're playing franchise mode, you kind of want to know what's happening in the league. So if a big trade happens, it's kind of hard to find it. So I'm definitely happy they added this where, a big alert will pop up if something happens big in the league. They've also added a sim engine scoring setting, finally. Basically, increases scoring or decreases scoring based on high, mid, low. The default is set to medium. Thank you, EA. Finally, man. It's so annoying when, like, your players are not scoring a point per game. And I'm finally happy that they added scoring system now so we can increase or decrease scoring. That's so cool. Obviously, I'm a guy, when I'm playing rebuilds, I want to put on high scoring. That's just funner, I guess. Wings are now worth less than centers and defensemen in regards to trade value. That makes sense. Centers and defensemen are always worth more than wingers. It's just that, again, that feature is going to make it realistic. A decreased scouting efficiency, so you won't have the full info on all draft eligible players at the end of the year. This should stop users from stacking elite players in the NHL draft. I don't know how I feel about that. They turned on the number of league and franchise potential goalies in the draft, tuned down to medium grade aspects. They added scout recommendations. They tuned the trade blocks of CPU wants and gives, added original placements to the draft lottery pop-up, added a contract year setting for expansion, custom roster flow, added auto owner mode, which gives takes care of the arena maintenance. So the auto owner mode is actually really useful, because if you still want to play franchise mode, but you want to like have the owner mode features, but you don't want to do the maintenance, you can turn this on. So that's super cool. So those are all of the updates for NHL 20. I just broke them down. And honestly, man, I don't know about you guys, I'm very excited for this season. So drop a like, subscribe, and leave a comment what you guys think about NHL 20 franchise mode. Booze.